9 coaches. That's the staggering number of mentors Emma Raducanu has cycled through since her historic fairy tale victory at the US Open just a few years ago. It is a number that has left the tennis world completely baffled, leading to one single burning question that echoes across the sport. Is the brilliant British tennis sensation simply uncoachable? Or is there a much deeper, far more complex story unfolding behind the scenes of her turbulent career? Today, we are pulling back the curtain on the enigma that has become Team Raducanu. We will explore exactly why her latest coach, Mark Petchey, a man who has overseen a genuinely promising return to form, is already admitting that he is on his way out. We will dissect the bizarre and unexpected reality of his potential departure, and trust me, it is not what you think. We will then delve deep into the incredible timeline of the 8 coaches who came before him, trying to make sense of this unprecedented and frankly bewildering pattern of chronic instability. And finally, we will look at who might be next in line to take on what has undoubtedly become one of the most scrutinized, most challenging, and most precarious jobs in all of professional sports. Stick with us, because this story is infinitely more complicated than a simple tale of a revolving door of coaches. It is a saga of immense talent, overwhelming pressure, and a desperate search for an anchor in a raging storm. Just when it seemed the ship had finally been steadied, just when it looked like the chaos was subsiding, Emma Raducanu was looking sharp. At this year's Wimbledon, she was not just there to compete. She was winning with a level of conviction that powerfully reminded everyone of that fearless, joyful teenager who conquered New York against all odds. She coolly dispatched the 2023 Wimbledon champion Marketa Vondrousova with a display of poise and power that sent a clear message. Her tennis was imbued with a newfound tactical discipline. The shot selection was smarter, the movement more economical, and the serve was a genuine weapon again. Even in her eventual defeat, she was nothing short of magnificent, pushing the formidable, hard-hitting world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka to the absolute brink in a thrilling third-round clash that had the crowd on the edge of their seats. The performance drew widespread praise from all corners of the sport, with pundits and former players alike noting her improved tactical awareness and fighting spirit. Beyond Wimbledon, she achieved another significant milestone. Just last month, she reclaimed her title as the British number 1, overtaking her compatriot Katie Boulter for the first time in 2 long, challenging years. The man widely credited with orchestrating this clear and tangible resurgence, her coach, Mark Petchey. They had only officially linked up back in March, after her previous coach, Vlado Platnik, departed after a fleeting 2-week trial period. Under Petchey's guidance, things seemed genuinely different. There was an apparent sense of calm, a visible on-court strategy, and a renewed focus. For her legions of loyal fans, it felt like a new dawn, a long-awaited return to the kind of stability that builds champions. But in the whirlwind world of Emma Raducanu, it appears that stability is the most fleeting and elusive concept of all. And this is precisely where this comeback story takes a sharp, deeply unexpected, and frankly confusing turn. Just as the partnership between player and coach seemed to be bearing significant fruit, Petchey himself dropped the bombshell. He is, in all likelihood, going to be the next coach to depart. But this is not the same story that we have heard time and time again. This does not appear to be a case of creative differences, a dramatic clash of egos, or a sudden ruthless firing. The reason is far more mundane, yet in the context of elite professional sports, it is far more bizarre. Mark Petchey, a highly respected voice in the tennis community, is also a prominent and popular pundit for the Tennis Channel. And his contractual media commitments mean he simply cannot be a full-time, dedicated coach for Raducanu. In his own revealing words to the Nothing Ventured podcast, Petchey laid out the strange reality of their professional arrangement. He said, and I quote, "I think at the moment we are a bit more short-term. Our situation is a little fluid at the moment." He went on to explain that he has other commitments that he simply cannot get out of. Let that sink in for a moment. One of the world's most famous and marketable tennis players, a Grand Slam champion, desperately trying to climb back to the pinnacle of the sport, is operating with what is, for all intents and purposes, a part-time coach. Such an arrangement is virtually unheard of at this level, where meticulous planning and a unified team are paramount. The situation is so fluid that Raducanu is set to be completely without a coach for at least a week during the crucial Canadian Open, a key tournament in the lead-up to the US Open. All of this while Petchey is on television analyzing matches instead of coaching in one. Even more astonishing is Petchey's proactive role in his own departure. He's not just passively waiting to be replaced, he is actively trying to find his own replacement. He stated, quote, "We are very aware she needs a second coach to come on board, and maybe just one coach, not me, as well. All I am trying to do is facilitate the best possible environment for Emma. Whether that involves me or does not involve me is not a question that I'm worried about." This is not just another coaching change. It is a public admission that the current structure is fundamentally unsustainable and was, perhaps, critically flawed from the very beginning. This uncomfortable truth brings us directly to the heart of the matter. The impending departure of Mark Petchey would make him the 8th coach to leave since that magical night in New York in 2021, which means his successor will be the 9th. Let's briefly trace this incredible timeline, a coaching carousel that spins faster and more erratically than any other in modern tennis. It all began with Andrew Richardson, the man who was in her corner during that unbelievable fairy tale US Open run. He was let go shortly after that historic triumph, with Raducanu publicly stating she needed someone with more extensive top-level WTA Tour experience. Then came the highly respected German coach, Torben Belz, a man who had guided fellow Grand Slam champion Angelique Kerber to glory. That seemingly solid partnership lasted just 5 months before it dissolved. Following his departure, she worked with a variety of figures, including the Lawn Tennis Association's Ann Bates and the doubles guru Louis Kayer, indicating a period of searching and uncertainty. After that came the Russian coach Dmitry Tursunov. This partnership showed real promise on the court, but Tursunov walked away after only a few months, cryptically citing red flags and ultimately choosing to work with another player. Those red flags have been the subject of intense speculation ever since, with many interpreting them as a veiled reference to interference from her inner circle, a recurring theme in the narrative of her career. Then there was Sebastian Sachs, another German coach. He was by her side for 167 days before they parted ways after she made the difficult decision to undergo triple surgery on her wrists and ankle. Upon her return from that lengthy injury layoff, she had a trial with the highly experienced Vlado Pletenik, but as we mentioned, that lasted a mere 2 weeks before Petchey was brought in. Richardson, Belz, Tursunov, Sachs, the list goes on and on. It is a dizzying list, isn't it? If you're finding this deep dive into the Raducanu coaching saga as baffling as we are, do hit that like button to let us know. This persistent pattern raises profoundly difficult questions. Is it simply a young player trying to find the perfect fit? Or is there a more fundamental issue with the decision-making process within her core team? This constant change prevents the buildup of trust, rapport, and long-term strategy, which are the absolute bedrock of sustained success for any top athlete. So, who could possibly be coach number 9? Who is brave enough, or perhaps bold enough, to step into this high-pressure, high-scrutiny role? Mark Petchey isn't just waiting for the axe to fall. He's actively trying to solve the puzzle that he himself is a part of. According to reports in The Telegraph, he was seen during Wimbledon deep in conversation, discussing Raducanu's situation with some of the biggest and most respected names in the coaching world. One name that has surfaced is truly intriguing: Darren Cahill. For those who don't follow the coaching world closely, Cahill is essentially coaching royalty. He is the current mastermind behind the incredible rise of the men's world number 1, Jannik Sinner. Before that, he guided legends like Leighton Hewitt and Andre Agassi to the top of the sports. And he also had a very successful stint working with Britain's own Sir Andy Murray during a key phase of his career. Getting a coach of Cahill's immense caliber would be a monumental coup for Raducanu. He represents the very essence of stability, elite experience, and proven success that she has been searching for ever since that victory in 2021. However, the reality of such a move is incredibly complex. Cahill is deeply committed to Sinner, and prying a top coach away from the reigning men's #1 is next to impossible. The fact that his name is even being mentioned in these discussions, however, shows the level at which Team Raducanu is aiming. They are clearly not looking for another temporary fix. They are hunting for a genuine game changer. But the challenge remains immense. A top-tier coach will demand control, a long-term vision, and unwavering commitment from the player and their entire team. Given the well-documented track record of the past 3 years, can Raducanu's camp provide those critical assurances? Any potential candidate will be weighing the undeniable, incredible talent and massive commercial appeal of Emma Raducanu against the well-documented history of rapid-fire coaching changes. It is the ultimate high-risk, high-reward job in tennis today. Succeed, and you are a genius. Fail, and you become just another name on an ever-growing list. Let's bring our focus back to the person at the very center of this swirling storm, Emma herself. Imagine for a moment being a young athlete trying to navigate the treacherous, unforgiving waters of the professional tour. You are still physically and mentally recovering from major surgeries. You are constantly dealing with the immense, suffocating pressure of being a Grand Slam winner, a status that brings with it unending scrutiny. And on top of all that, you are perpetually adapting to a new voice in your ear, a new philosophy, a new training regimen, and a new personality every few months. How can any player build momentum? How can you possibly develop the deep, intuitive player-coach bond that has been the foundation for nearly every modern champion? From Serena Williams with Patrick Mouratoglou, to Rafael Nadal with his Uncle Tony, to Iga Swiatek with her steadfast team. This constant state of flux is arguably the single biggest obstacle standing between Emma Raducanu and a return to the top 10 of the world rankings. And yet, through it all, the talent remains undeniable. Petchey himself remains incredibly optimistic about her future, even as he simultaneously plans his own exit. Speaking about her gut-wrenching match against the Belenka, he called it a great tennis match and noted how he's been using it as a blueprint for improvement. He said, "I've sought out opinions from people I respect in the industry, coaches, asking them what they felt about the match and what she could have done better, and that gives you a chance to formulate a plan going forward." This is the central paradox of Emma Raducanu. On one hand, you have a coach so invested in her success that he's crowdsourcing feedback from his peers to help her improve. On the other, that very same coach knows he won't be around long enough to fully implement that plan himself. The raw material is there. The world saw it in New York. We saw brilliant flashes of it at Wimbledon. But talent alone cannot win in a sport this demanding. It needs to be nurtured by a stable, supportive, and consistent environment. The road ahead is more uncertain than ever, and we will be tracking every single development. Make sure you are subscribed with notifications on so you don't miss our next update on this incredible and ongoing saga. The search for a long-term solution is not just about finding a new coach. It's about redefining the entire structure around one of Britain's brightest and most talked-about sporting stars. So, as Emma Raducanu prepares for the American hardcourt swing, the series of tournaments that once saw her create a genuine sporting miracle, she does so under a familiar and heavy cloud of uncertainty. The collaboration with Mark Petchey, which for a brief moment offered a tantalizing glimpse of a brighter, more stable future, has turned out to be just another short, frustrating chapter in a book filled with them. The question is no longer just who will coach Emma Raducanu next. The real, more profound question is whether coach number 9 will finally be the one to break the cycle. Will they be given the time, the trust, and the authority to build a lasting foundation for success? Or is the tennis world destined to have this exact same conversation again in another 6 months, another year, as the revolving door keeps on spinning? This entire situation poses a fundamental question about her career's management. Ultimately, only time will tell if this particular fairy tale can ever truly get its happy ending, or if the most consistent thing about Team Raducanu will continue to be the change itself.